straight over for a reception at Government House. We can see dignitaries there and other officials coming off the plane as they disembark. Now, the Prince of Wales hasn't been to Manitoba, as Rahim Ladhani mentioned, for about 18 years now. Well, this is Camilla's first tour to our province. Again, still waiting for the royal couple to come off the plane, but we will check back in with Rahim as well as Megan Roberts, and we'll have more on this story as it unfolds from 17 Wing tonight. All right, so we are waiting again for Prince Charles and Camilla to get off the airplane at 17 Wing. Is Rahim still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ford, I can hear you. We are waiting for Prince Charles and Camilla to come down and disembark from the plane. There's a barricade, as you can see here, all ready to take them to the Government House for the reception. Right now, as you can imagine, there's a lot of press, there's a big entourage, and so it's taking a bit of time for everyone to come down. But you can sense the excitement as they get ready to disembark from the plane.
Again, their first visit will be to the Provincial House, is that correct? Government House?
That's correct. They'll be there at the Government House for a reception where they'll be meeting with people like the Premier and Mayor Sam Cates and other people who have impacted the Canadian society in a positive light.
All right, thanks, Rahim. We have obviously no idea as to when they're going to disembark, so we see some people moving about there, but we can check.
Oh, here they come.
Is that him?
There's Prince Charles.
That's Prince Charles. All right, get the umbrellas up.
Yes, it's a little damp outside.
It's a little wet in Winnipeg for the arrival of the royal couple.
And there's Camilla behind him. Ooh, windy.
Now, as we mentioned, this is Camilla's first time in Manitoba. It's a bit of a windy and rainy day, and we set Prince Charles his first time back in Manitoba in 18 years, so a special moment for the royal couple.
Hopefully she doesn't have too much trouble getting down the stairs there. I mean, it's nice, though, to have them disembarking from the plane in the open air like that. But unfortunately, this weather in Winnipeg, not too welcoming for the royal couple. But we will see some sunshine in the next couple of days as they continue their visit. So
right now, the couple is now shaking hands with the Premier and Mayor Sam Cates, along with other dignitaries in the line. They'll then board a part up their barricade and then head over to the Government House.
All right, thanks, Rahim. We will check in with Megan Roberts a little later at Government House as we continue on with the newscast and follow the royal couple as they tour Winnipeg. Follow.
Yes.
You know, you watch the coverage from Eastern Canada, from Halifax, and I was watching this yesterday, and all the people that met them were saying they really take a lot of time to say hello, and it's not just, hi, how are you, and move on to the next person. They ask questions. They're very interested in who they're meeting, and I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, it is, and they have had a specific interest in not only the environment but also youth, so they'll be taking some time to talk to young people, actually people of all ages. They're meeting with senior citizens as well while they're here in Winnipeg.
And Prince Charles will check out the polar bear exhibit tomorrow. He's going to feed a polar bear very carefully.
Yes, he is.
Very carefully.
You see some beautiful flowers there just being handed to the Duchess of Cornwall. Some very excited children had the opportunity to be part of the party and pass those flowers along. A 14-year-old named Alex Blake, she is there, as well as a 7-year-old little boy named Colby Caligiuri. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see them, but we did see the beautiful flowers they presented, always part of protocol there. And you see the wind is really taking an impact. Now, I mentioned earlier our Chris Glover is there. He prepared a special item for us on the report on the preparations for this moment. Now, they're just going to go into their vehicle now, I see, departing for the legislative grounds for Government House there, the home of the Lieutenant Governor and his wife. Philip Lee and his wife Anita. There will be a special reception there. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment. As they prepare to leave 17 Wing, let's now go to Chris Glover and his report.
Hi there, Janet.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, well, the royal couple will now be leaving the airfield here, and they're going to be, as you say, going over to legislative grounds. All of the other dignitaries are getting into the rest of the motorcade, and you can see their vehicle is taking off now as we speak. Tonight, they're just going to that reception. Not a lot on the agenda, but tomorrow is really going to be a packed day for Winnipeg, and we took a look at some of the preparations that are going on around our city. A frenzy of last-minute jobs at the Assiniboine Park Zoo. Prince Charles will tour the unfinished Journey to Churchill exhibit, and
these are the feeding tongs that Prince will be using.
He'll feed the zoo's new big attraction, Hudson the polar bear.
How could it not be the highlight of his life? What better thing can a prince do than feed a polar bear?
Especially for a prince with a track record of helping polar bears in Manitoba. When Charles was last here in 1996, he went to Churchill to watch the signing of a federal and provincial agreement for a national park around polar bears. Also up for this tour, Manitoba's so-called Innovation Alley, a unique place in the province where technology like this 3D printer operates. Dustin Revick's company created Spot Open. It's an app that helps you schedule appointments. He's excited to meet the prince.
I feel thrilled about it. I mean, I think it's something that I can't say I ever had on my bucket list, so to speak.
Past royal trips to Canada have cost over the $1 million mark. This tour is supposed to be a trimmed-down affair. But while most Canadians watch the couple, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says it'll watch the bill.
We know that it's going to come with a big price tag. Are the expenses reasonable for things like security, or are they perhaps a little bit more frivolous?
The royal couple will also receive gifts along the way. Among them, these 6 stuffed Winnie the Bears. It's to honor the real black bear that was adopted during World War I by a Winnipeg Army Reserve regiment. The bear ended up at the London Zoo and inspired the beloved children's character, Winnie the Pooh.
It's impressive to know something from Winnipeg, of Winnipeg production, Winnipeg-made uniforms, and a Winnipeg story will be over there in Britain.
Another treat.
That story by our Chris Glover. Of course, the royal couple is now heading to a reception at Government House in downtown Winnipeg. CBC's Ryan Hicks is there and joins us now live.
The royal couple arrived here today to mark this historic visit. The University of Manitoba has released some never-before-seen footage. It's of Prince Charles's grandfather and grandmother, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, as they took a tour around Winnipeg in May 1939, just months before the Second World War. Now, what's interesting about this footage is that it was kept under lock and key for more than 60 years. A man named R.A. Storch filmed and took photographs of that historic visit, and now the University of Manitoba has included some of it in their archives. Now, a couple of weeks ago, George Stroumboulopoulos sat down with Prince Charles ahead of this royal tour, and here's a clip of what Prince Charles said about what Canada means to him.
What's your relationship like with Canada?
I enjoy always seeing Canadians everywhere, but I mean, as you can imagine, I feel a great interest in everything that's going on in Canada. So when we come this time, I find, of course, it gets busier and busier because I now have more and more organizations that I'm involved with and try and take an interest in. Fitting it all in is always quite difficult.
Exclusive interview tonight on CBC at 8 o'clock. Reporting live from Government House, Ryan Hicks, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Later tonight on our late night cast, I'll take you inside the reception to show what happened.
All right, we can hear those sirens behind you, as you mentioned, Megan. The schedule, we talked about it for tonight. What about tomorrow? What are Prince Charles and Camilla up to tomorrow?
Well, it's going to be another packed day for the royal couple tomorrow as they tour Winnipeg, finding the best places in the city to be. Of course, that includes a visit to Manitoba's favorite polar bear, Hudson, and as well, they're going to be visiting the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Of course, you can see that all on CTV tomorrow morning.
All right, thanks for this. Megan, we are going to stay with you. We can see the motorcade now arriving behind you. Folks, of course, there lined up. A couple of motorcycles just zipping past you. Maybe you can pick it up there and let us know. Have you spoken to anybody in the crowd? What are they saying about the arrival of Prince Charles and Camilla?
Well, the crowd is really excited. Like I said before, they started arriving at about 5:30 p.m. Lots of fanfare, lots of cameras out, of course, right now, and camera phones. No one's dampened by the weather. Like I said, people have been waiting for a few hours now, and people are waving flags. They're just really excited to see the royal couple arrive and get a first glimpse. And now we're seeing the motorcade is coming in. It's just coming down the street. You can see, of course, all the police cars and the flashes. So people are really just excited to see the royal couple coming here to Winnipeg.
Yeah, you can see we saw the police on motorcycles zip by first, and now we can see the rest of the motorcade following in behind.
Yes, lots of cars in the motorcade, of course, as would befit a royal couple. They're just starting to roll in now. Of course, we're at the Government House in downtown Winnipeg, and they're just getting ready to welcome the royal couple. Everyone's starting to wave, of course, and here they are. Everyone's cheering, and they're super excited to see. They've been waiting for a while, and now this is what they came to see.
Waiting for the royal couple.
Oh, there they are.
Prince Charles.
There they are. They're waving.
Posing for some pictures.
Speaking with the crowd. Don't see Camilla yet. I'm assuming she's getting out of the other side of the vehicle.
There she is. I see her umbrella.
Yeah,
yes.
there she is.
Behind the agents there, the police escort as well.
Yes, it's quite the entourage, of course, for the royal couple, and they were giving some nice waves to the crowd of Winnipeggers, waving for them as well. Now they're just greeting some of the people, and they're just walking into the house now where, like I said before, they're going to be attending a reception with some of Manitoba's elite. They're going to be meeting our premier and meeting other prominent Manitobans and just celebrating their first night here in Winnipeg.
All right, thanks, Megan. CTV's Megan Roberts reporting live from Government House tonight.
Prince Charles and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, are here in Winnipeg, as we showed you. It's just the latest in a long list of royal visits to Winnipeg.
Yeah, and today we can show you some of the never-before-seen film footage from a royal visit back in 1939. This is the footage that was just released from the University of Manitoba's archives. Now, it was shot on May 2nd, 1939. It shows King George VI and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, visiting Winnipeg. About 100,000 people came out to greet the royal family. The university says the films had been filed away and forgotten about in a warehouse, but thanks to some, well, good luck, it's been rediscovered and just in time for the visit of the Prince of Wales, of course. Now, if you'd like to see more of this film footage, you can head to our website, winnipeg.ctvnews.ca.
A lot of people lined up there.
And not quite as many people today.
The weather might have had something to do with that.
May 1939 looked nicer, actually.
It did, it sure did.
Let's go back to 1939.
All right, we have some more video to show you again. If you missed the arrival at the top of the show, this is the Prince and Camilla arriving off a plane at 17 Wing just after 6 o'clock this evening. From there, a motorcade took them to Government House, where they are meeting with dignitaries this evening. We'll have more coverage for you on the royal visit tomorrow. Watch CTV Morning Live, CTV News at noon and 6 for the latest.
Now, as we mentioned, this is Camilla's first time in Manitoba. It's a bit of a windy and rainy day, and we said Prince Charles, his first time back to
CTV. Tonight, the beginning of a royal visit to Winnipeg, what a day with Charles and Camilla could cost taxpayers.
Studios, News Hour Final with Jamie Hunt.
The Queen's eldest son and heir to the throne arrived in Winnipeg tonight for a one-day visit. Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, and his wife, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, landed on a Royal Canadian Air Force jet at 17 Wing in Winnipeg at about 6 p.m. The wet and windy weather seemed to cause the Duchess some trouble during her first few steps on her first ever visit to Manitoba. The royal couple was quickly whisked away on a motorcade to Government House, the official residence of Manitoba's Lieutenant Governor. Inside, Charles attended a private reception at the 19th century mansion. This is the Prince's first visit to Manitoba since 1996. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The rest of the Royals' public events in Winnipeg are tomorrow, including what will likely be the highlight, Charles feeding Hudson the polar bear at Assiniboine Park Zoo. There are several other events all around the city, all requiring a huge security effort. It comes with a hefty price tag. Global's Tamara Forlansky has more now on the visit and the cost.
Sorry we missed.
Oh, that's okay. He's our future king, but not everyone is smitten. Prince Charles and his wife Camilla are visiting Winnipeg.
He's kind of blah. His son is much better looking.
That's great for them, I guess. I don't really care.
Does it matter to you that he's here, or is it just like another day?
Let's say it is another day for me. Yeah, nothing special for me.
But for the RCMP, this is huge.
It is really an all-hands-on-deck effort.
Officers from pretty much every unit are being tasked with keeping the couple safe. The Prime Minister is also dropping in for part of the royal tour in Manitoba. Everything from motorcades to personal security and site sweeps is the RCMP's responsibility.
We do have a bunch of specialty services within the RCMP that will be engaged, such as police dog services and people who specialize in detecting bombs and bomb threats.
Touring royalty around isn't cheap. The 4-day, 3-province visit is reportedly costing taxpayers around $700,000. For that price, you can buy 3 tickets to outer space on Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two.
I've always felt that they should pay their way.
They actually could afford it themselves.
Provincial officials won't divulge how much the Manitoba leg will cost taxpayers, but says it's in the ballpark of the PEI stop's price tag, an estimated $100,000.
It's a big number, and that's why we're going to be looking into the expenses to see exactly what was expensed. Because I think it's the type of thing that taxpayers want to make sure that all the expenditures are reasonable.
Tamara Ferlansky, Global News.
Now the Royals will make several stops in Winnipeg tomorrow, including Charles's encounter with Hudson the polar bear at the zoo. You can find the whole list of wheres and whens in the story on our website, globalnews.ca/Winnipeg. Some controversy may follow Prince Charles tomorrow. A British newspaper is reporting tonight that the prince compared Russian President Vladimir Putin to Adolf Hitler earlier today in Halifax. The Daily Mail claims the prince was speaking to an elderly Jewish woman whose family was murdered by the Nazis. Charles is reported to have said, "Now Putin is doing the same as Hitler," perhaps in reference to the crisis in Ukraine.
Tonight, a royal reception in Winnipeg as Prince Charles and Duchess Camilla touch down in our city.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Caroline Bargood. The royal couple is here. Prince Charles and Duchess Camilla touched down in Winnipeg just before 6 this evening. They were whisked from the airport to a welcome reception downtown, and the CBC's Ryan Hicks was there.
This was the royal couple's first stop on their tour of Winnipeg Government House. Here they were welcomed by a low-key reception, but with some notable guests. Wayne Gretzky, the gold medal curling team led by Jennifer Jones, the Premier of Manitoba, Greg Sullinger, as well as the former Premier, Gary Dewar. The royal couple was welcomed by a couple dozen people here outside Government House who greeted them on their way in. They also said goodbye to them as they left, and as they were leaving, Prince Charles said to the royal watchers, "You're brave for standing out in this cold." Wednesday, Charles and Camilla have a packed schedule. Prince Charles is going to tour the Journey to Churchill exhibit at the Assiniboine Park Zoo, and that's where he is going to feed a polar bear, Hudson the polar bear. Camilla will get a behind-the-scenes tour of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and she'll also watch a performance by some of the students there. Their whole Canada tour will end here in Winnipeg, just around the corner here at the legislature, where Charles and Camilla will attend an Order of Manitoba swearing-in ceremony. Prince Charles will also give his final speech of the royal tour, and then they will walk around the legislative grounds, doing a walkabout and greeting Canadians as they say their final farewell before heading on their flight back to the UK. Ryan Hicks, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A local First Nation artist is hoping to gift the Prince and Duchess some new moccasins. Edna Navis made a pair that was given to Prince George, so she thought his grandparents would like some too. But she's not yet sure how to get them to the royal couple.
You know what, I'm hoping like the ones that were sent to Prince George, that someone will come in and say, "Edna, can I give these to him for you?"
Navis says she found their shoe sizes on the internet, and in case you're wondering, Prince Charles wears a size 9 and his wife Camilla wears an 11. Well, we got a sneak peek at the Lavender Truffles. A Winnipeg chocolatier will be serving the Duchess of Cornwall.
Constance Menzies was asked to make a few dozen of them for an event commissioned by the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Lavender truffles are said to be Camilla's favorite. On the outside will be a rose fit for a queen inside them. Raspberry soaked in amaretto and white wine that's been made into a ganache.
All done early this morning, and then we waited for them to set, and then they get hand dipped, and then we decorate them with fresh rose petals and fresh lavender.
This is the second time the chocolatier has made dessert fit for royalty. In 2010, she served the Queen, Prince Philip, and 100 of their guests when they visited Government House.
Tonight, royal welcome.
It's really an honor to see them, and this opportunity doesn't come up very often.
Prince Charles and Camilla arrive in Winnipeg. Also tonight, first. Thanks for joining us. A royal welcome to our city this evening. Around 6 p.m., Prince Charles and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, landed at Canadian Forces Base Winnipeg. They stepped off their plane into windy, rainy weather, took a few moments to greet the small private gathering at 17 Wing, and then got into a car to be whisked downtown to Government House for a reception. And the Prince of Wales hasn't been to our province for 18 years, and this is his wife's first visit. Well, members of the public got their first chance to see the couple at Government House this evening, and Manitobans took advantage despite the rain. And we sent our Megan Roberts to rub shoulders with royalty tonight. Megan, how close did you get?
Well, actually closer than I've ever been. This is the first time I've personally seen royals up close, but I was still a good 10 feet away, about the same distance as some Winnipeggers who were cheering and clapping and, of course, taking lots and lots of photos of the Prince of Wales and his wife, Camilla. But it was just a quick hello before the royal couple was whisked inside for a meet and greet with Manitoba's elite. A royal welcome for a royal couple. Dozens of Winnipeggers waited in the rain outside Government House.
Oh, we were just here a couple of hours. Yeah. We sat in the car for a while, and then we put our chairs out.
Margaret Van Bentham and her 10-year-old granddaughter, Kayla Babiuk, saw Queen Elizabeth during her tour of the city in 2010, and they couldn't resist another chance for a peek at British royalty.
It's really an honor to see them, and this opportunity doesn't come up very often.
A glimpse well worth the wait before the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall headed inside to begin their official schedule. Starting with an autograph session, Prince Charles and Camilla signed the guest book at Government House, the official residence of Lieutenant Governor Philip Lee. Lee and his wife Anita welcomed the couple into their home.
A little warmer in here.
Then Premier Greg Selinger and his wife got FaceTime with the royals. Selinger calls the reception a success.
I just think the warmth of our community showed itself tonight. Manitobans are, as you know, friendly and welcoming, and I think the Royals experienced that tonight. They experienced the warmth of Manitobans from a wide cross-section of our society, and I think they very much enjoyed it.
And that Manitoban warmth was waiting outside for the couple, who received more cheers an hour later when they left the reception.
I think it's very important to keep this tradition going and to support them.
Now, we weren't allowed inside the reception, but we do know that Winnipeg's Golden Girl Jennifer Jones also got a chance to meet with the royal couple.
Well, nice welcome to Manitoba for the Royals. What's on their schedule tomorrow?
It's going to be another packed day for our royal visitors tomorrow as they take in all that Winnipeg has to offer, including a visit from Prince Charles to Manitoba's favorite polar bear, Hudson. Now, if you're hoping to catch the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall before they leave Winnipeg, you will have a chance. The royals will be outside the legislature tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. and Prince Charles will be addressing the crowd.
All right, thanks, Megan. CTV's Megan Roberts live in studio tonight. And CTV Winnipeg will have extensive coverage of the royal visit throughout the day tomorrow. You can watch CTV Morning Live, CTV News at noon, at 6, and again here at 11:30 for the latest. And we'll have plenty of extras for you on our website. Well, in tonight's web poll, we want to know, are you excited the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall are visiting Winnipeg? So far tonight, 17% of voters say yes. Well, you can cast your vote on our website, winnipeg.ctvnews.ca.
If you were anywhere downtown last night, you may have heard all the sirens. The royal couple touched down in Winnipeg and were escorted by a massive motorcade through the city. They're now looking at a day jam-packed with local engagements. City's Fiona Odlum is at Government House and joins us now live. Good morning, Fiona.
Good morning, Courtney. Today is the big day for Winnipeg and the final stop for the couple's royal tour through Canada. After making their way through Nova Scotia and PEI, Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall are in our city. It was a bit of a dreary welcome out on the tarmac last night with the royals battling the wind and rain, and actually at one point they even found themselves tangled in each other's umbrellas. Well, it wasn't the most fashionable entrance for Camilla. We're told underneath that coat was a dove gray dress designed by Bruce Oldfield. Despite the misty weather, a small crowd of royal watchers waved and welcomed the couple to their first Manitoba stop. At Government House, the crowd only got a minute with the prince, but it was enough time for him to tell them things were chilly and wet. The two then went inside for a reception honoring Canadians who've made a significant difference in their local communities. Now, their visit is only lasting 27 hours, meaning today is jam-packed, starting with a tour of Red River College, Stevenson Hangar, alongside Stephen Harper. Later, the prince will come face-to-face with Hudson the polar bear at the zoo, and actually I'm hearing that he's going to be feeding him. That is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And then Camilla will take in a special performance at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Now, you may be wondering, well, where can I catch a glimpse of the royal couple? They'll actually be right behind me here at the Legislative Grounds tonight, and that is where the Royal Highness will deliver a speech and bid Canada farewell. Back to you, Courtney.
Thanks, Fiona. That's City's Fiona Odlum on Royal Watch for us this morning. Winnipeggers will be keeping an eye out for any royal encounters today. Prince Charles and his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, are traveling throughout the city on the final day of their Canadian tour. With what we can expect, City's Fiona Odlum joins us now live from Government House. Good morning, Fiona.
Good morning, Courtney. When you get the royals, you get the world. And Winnipeg is planning an epic day for the royal couple. And with more than a dozen stops in our city in just 12 hours. But first, I want to show you what the royal couple got up to last night right here at Government House. The royal couple brushed off the rain and hosted an impressive reception with Canada's equivalent to royalty. That's right, Wayne Gretzky, the Great One, was just one of several Canadians honored for the difference they've made in their community. Others in attendance included the Premier, the Lieutenant Governor, and our own curling great, Jennifer Jones. And now today, which will start with students, the Prime Minister, and a flight, Charles and Camilla will be out near the airport to celebrate Aviation Day. They will then stop and learn a little bit about Winnie the Pooh, and then the prince will actually get a chance to feed a real-life bear at our zoo. Now, if you're wondering how you can get face-to-face with the Prince and the Duchess of Cornwall, you could actually try here tonight, just at the Legislative Grounds, where they're going to be doing a 21-gun salute and an official departure ceremony. That final event is all going to start around 7 o'clock and should last just after 8 o'clock. Courtney?
Thanks, Fiona. Very exciting day ahead. That's Fiona Odlum reporting for us this morning. The couple do leave Winnipeg. They'll be bringing back a piece of our city with them. The Fort Garry Horse is presenting Prince Charles and Camilla with the 6 Winnie the Bear dolls at Assiniboine Park later this morning. The name Winnie comes from the bear who was brought to the London Zoo by a veterinary officer of the Fort Garry Horse during World War I and was named Winnie after the city of Winnipeg. That bear later became the inspiration for the fictional character Winnie the Pooh.
It's great to have the city connection, the connection to something everybody knows in the world, Winnie the Pooh, and that's where the name came from. And it's nice to be able to present these items in a place where the Assiniboine Park Pavilion, where they have a great collection about Winnie and some of the original drawings and painting.
The bears are intended for each of Prince Charles's grandchildren. They have a maple leaf on their foot and are wearing Canadian military uniforms with a Winnie name badge on one shoulder, a Canadian flag on the other, and the rank and insignia for Fort Garry Horse on the front.
Well, there was some perfect wet London, England weather to welcome the royal couple to Winnipeg last night. Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall moved pretty quickly off the airfield and into their motorcade, but I am told that under the umbrella and her coat, the Duchess was wearing a dove gray dress designed by Bruce Oldfield. Now, a lot more excitement when they got here to Government House, where a lot of royal watchers there welcoming them, and really an early night because today packed over a dozen different stops. A very interesting day for the prince. Yes, bears. He's going to feed a polar bear at the zoo. He's also going to take an informational stop to learn about our connection to Winnie the Pooh. And then it's over. It's the fourth and final day of that royal tour. I'll be following them throughout, and we'll report back tomorrow.
That's right. We'll have all. Let's check in one last time as we wrap up our royal coverage and looking forward to where they're going to be today. Good morning, Fiona.
Hey, well, good morning. You know what? It is going to be such an exciting day here in Winnipeg. We have royal fever. I think I may need to see a doctor. I'm so excited. The Royals aren't staying here at Government House. They're staying at a different hotel somewhere throughout the city. I may know, I may not know, but where. But I'll tell you what, today they have a jam-packed agenda. They're going to be hanging out with the Prime Minister. They're going to be going on a flight. They're going to be chatting with Hudson. Well, not they're going to be chatting, but they're going to be feeding him. Apparently the Prince has some special tongs, and he's going to be feeding Hudson directly, which is pretty cool. A once-in-a-lifetime experience that very few people ever get to have. And then, of course, Camilla's going to check out a performance that's just for her at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Now, I know Jenna Kahn had a sneak peek of it a couple days ago, and Natalie Geddes will feature that tomorrow with her all the details, because she's going to be following the Royals all day long, and she's going to have quite the story to tell and share with all of our BT viewers tomorrow morning, and I will for sure be watching that. I'm just so excited. And of course tonight, how are you going to see the Royals? Coming here to the Legislative Building. They're going to be here around 7 o'clock on the grounds here. They're going to have a 21-gun salute, and he's going to be addressing the crowd with his farewell bid to Canada, because this is their last stop on their trip. So I will be there. I hope, Jeremy, Courtney, I hope to see you here tonight as well.
You betcha. Thank you so much, Fiona, for giving us the coverage of the day, being on our royal watch for us at Government House. And yeah, like I said, they're going to be with.
The Whirlwind Royal Tour continues,
where Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall will visit in Winnipeg today.
Also,
good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Royal Tour is in its second day in Winnipeg.
Prince Charles is at Assiniboine Park Zoo today for a special event, and that's where CTV's John Hendricks is now.
Yeah, John, what's happening at the zoo there today?
Well, there's going to be an awful lot of excitement right here at the zoo. Now, Hudson, who is over my shoulder, is used to being the star attraction around here, and sure enough, he will be again today, but he's going to have to share the spotlight. Prince Charles will be participating in a positive reinforcement training session. Now, you may ask, what is that? It's where the zookeepers basically teach Hudson to present his paw or hindquarters so they can draw a blood sample. Now, you may wonder, how do you get a polar bear to do that? Well, they do it through feeding him, and that is what Prince Charles is going to be participating in today. He will be helping to feed Hudson either some fish or some meat. Now, don't worry about his safety. He will be using tongs, so no need to worry that he will lose a finger, but should be pretty exciting anyway.
You bet. All right. Thanks a lot, John. CTV's John Hendricks reporting. We'll check back in with you, John, later.
Before their Royal Highnesses arrived at the zoo, they spent some time with a big crowd, many of them young Manitobans. This is Prince Charles and Camilla arriving at the Stevenson Hangar, one of Red River College's campuses on the airport grounds. This is Aerospace and Aviation Day, and a chance for the royal couple to see what an important role the aerospace industry has in Manitoba. Prince Charles made a few brief remarks about what has and hasn't changed since his last visit here in 1996.
What has most assuredly not changed is the vitality of this province and the optimism for Canada's future, as reflected in the faces of these young and, dare I say, rather energetic Canadians.
Their Royal Highnesses were presented with a special gift for grandson George, a little aviator jacket. We'll have much more on the royal visit tonight at 6 o'clock. You can also follow updates throughout the day on our website. As John Hendricks mentioned earlier, Prince Charles is helping feed Assiniboine Park Zoo's Hudson today. You are now looking at a live shot of the prince at the zoo. It looks like he's just outside of Hudson's cage. This is what's known that's going to take place as positive reinforcement training session. That means the prince is going to use tongs to feed the bear. That's to keep everyone safe. Now, the session is used to make it easier on keepers and Hudson when they need to take blood or check his paws. Next, after this, the Prince of Wales will visit the Journey to Churchill exhibit, where he will participate in a polar bear education session, view Aboriginal art on display in the Seal Gallery, and unveil a plaque of dedication. Now you can see the Prince is likely being briefed at this moment about how this positive reinforcement feeding will take place. They're introducing him to how he'll use the tongs. We're understanding he will be fed some sort of meat, probably some type of fish. Hudson, of course, playing to the crowd, as he always does. You can see the throngs of photographers there. Prince Charles is getting closer now. It looks like we might see the feeding take place at this point. Hudson's still calling those cameras to come back to him. Oh, and there the two meet face to face. Looks like they've brought some food in a bucket over towards the Prince. And we'll just wait for the moment when the two of them do make the feeding. We're hoping it would happen right about now. We will keep monitoring the situation for you and come back to show you that feeding live, because it looks like it may not happen as quickly as we thought.
No.
All right, we are going to go back now to Assiniboine Park Zoo live, where the Prince, right there, you just saw, he had the tongs there and fed Hudson. The crowd all standing by watching. The zookeeper right there. I think we might see another feeding here. Here we go. There's the Prince. He's going to use those tongs again to pick up some sort of fish. And there you go. Hudson's getting a treat today. Lots of people lined up, as you can see, for that photo opportunity this morning. Well, they might make Hudson stand up now. They're going to get him to work for his food this afternoon. Oh, here's another camera angle that you're seeing. And look, they're going to make Hudson stand up. You can hear all the cameras flashing. Of course, there is the photo everyone has been waiting for. Now, following this feeding, as we mentioned earlier, Prince Charles will tour the Journey to Churchill exhibit, which Winnipeggers are anxiously awaiting its opening. The Prince will get a first look at it and be presented with some gifts. We'll have more on that coming up.
Speaking of up close and personal sightings, Winnipeggers are getting that with the Royals. Hashtag Royal Visit and hashtag Royal Tour. They're taking over local and national social media news feeds. Organizations and places that are hosting the Royals are tweeting and sharing pictures about it. And so are the people who are getting up close and personal. Red River College put this one out on their Instagram saying, "Are you having a laugh? Welcome, Prince Charles Royal Tour." Look how close. That's a great shot. And of course, people who are getting close, such as Shailene Nielsen, she put this on her Instagram, saw hashtag Prince Charles today at the Assiniboine Park Zoo. Look how close she got, right up there with the Prince. Now, of course, it's one thing to be fascinated, because it's not every day to have royals in our backyard. Sometimes it's also a little irritating. Jets fan 1973 put this on his Instagram saying, "The Royal Caravan in Winnipeg," and you can check out this shot. I believe that's Portage Avenue. Take a look at the motorcade, and then take a look at the traffic in the opposite direction, nonetheless causing a little bit of a snarl, and that did create a little bit of chatter on social media. Winnipeg Cycle Chick tweeted, "British Royals making a mess of traffic downtown," but hey, they did give us Monday off, so I guess we're even.
Victoria Day, yeah, that's right.
Royal Visit. And I said the places that are welcoming the Royals today, like Assiniboine Park Zoo, they're pretty pumped up, tweeting everything going on in their backyard, saying this: grade 3-4 students are being led to the Journey of Churchill, where they'll soon meet Prince Charles, and check out all the kids that welcomed and got to get up close and personal as they went and fed Hudson the bear. This is a Twitter account you might want to follow during this entire royal visit, which I know it's going to be wrapping up today, at least here locally, at the Crown CA. They have great pictures such as this one. You can just see right there Prince Charles and his wife Camilla, and of course Premier Salinger in the background. They tweeted this out earlier saying the Royal Highnesses and the Prime Minister, they met with young people during Aerospace and Aviation in Manitoba Day. Big, huge crowd right there. And of course, they're going to be getting some gifts all day. 3rd Canadian Division tweeted out that they're going to be giving Winnie the Bears to, of course, the grandchildren, which is pretty cute. Of course, you can always head to winnipeg.ctvnews.ca to weigh in on our web poll, which has to do with the royal visit as well.
All right, thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Still to come.
We're going to check back in now at Assiniboine Park Zoo, where the Prince and the rest of the royal party are leaving, and the The Prince will be, of course, heading off to other locations throughout Winnipeg. We see him there waving to the crowd. The Prince and Camilla had a chance to check out the journey to Churchill. He had a chance to do some positive reinforcement feeding, a training session with Hudson, the polar bear. Again, he did use those tongs to feed Hudson. There is the motorcade now as it leaves the Assiniboine Park Zoo. John Hendricks was there. He is tracking this, and he will have more for us tonight on CTV News at 6 o'clock. Quite the day, and not a bad day, I guess.
They've spent their lives in front of the lens. Tonight, we're going behind the scenes to see how Winnipeg readied for its royal visit and the rules everyone had to abide by. And a prince, a duchess, a prime minister, and a polar bear. We chat with the man who's responsible for keeping all of the above happy. Is it fun for you or stressful?
Is there a word in between, or is there a combo for that? They're both.
You may have shouted their names with glee or cursed them as you sat in traffic while the royal motorcade whizzed by. The whirlwind trip to Winnipeg by Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall is over. And for the man who helps plan each and every royal visit, there is only relief. Dwight McCauley has to manage the timing of every tour right down to the second and hope it all goes off without a hitch. If ever there was a moment in the royal tour that had the potential to go wrong, it was this.
So I'll give you the choice between what kind of tongs you would like to use. Ones are smaller.
Not because Hudson has pretty big teeth, but because Prince Charles had pretty big expectations. He wanted to feed the polar bear, and for that, they had to keep Hudson hungry, although they couldn't do anything about keeping the bear clean.
He got a little dirty on us. He was much cleaner this morning when he came out of the pool and he decided to roll around.
A 410-pound animal isn't easy to control, but everything and everyone else...
We have to say, like, Your Highness and not curtsy because we can't, apparently.
...was choreographed. The direction the prince would walk, who he would talk to, how he would safely get in and out of every venue.
And there's always the security aspect that can really override everything in many respects, that can decide this is a good idea, this isn't a good idea.
Was there anything that was shot down because of security?
No.
Not even Hudson the polar bear?
Not even Hudson the polar bear. Feeding the polar bear was A-OK.
Dwight McCauley is Manitoba's chief of protocol and has played a pivotal role in the last 14 royal visits. If he's not standing next to one of the dignitaries, he's close. You can see him here just behind the prince's right shoulder. Is it fun for you or stressful?
Is there a word in between, or is there a combo for that? They're both. They are stressful. You have to be on top of things and know that if something happens here that changes, how's it going to affect things down the road?
Camilla's struggling a little bit with the wind here. When it's raining, do you say, oh?
When it's raining, yeah, that's one of the things I'd say.
He can't control the weather, but he can control timing, like best lighting for pictures and for crowds.
You don't want to be coming out of the legislative building, as in the case last night or on Wednesday night, if it's after 9 o'clock and it's starting to get dark.
Winnipeggers have only known royalty was coming for the last 5 weeks. McCauley has been planning for months.
One of the worst parts is telling people that you, when you're putting a program together, that you're not going to be able to go to their venue for an event.
Dozens of businesses and groups asked to be included, or at the very least, present the royal couple with gifts.
I've heard so much about the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and it's lived up to my expectations.
Now, Charles and Camilla don't exactly rank high on the list of celebrities Winnipeggers can't wait to see. For many, they were more of a hassle.
How long is it going to take?
I have no idea.
I got an appointment to see the doctor at 15 minutes. My God.
Few fans could be found in the long line of traffic stuck behind the royal couple's motorcade, and many more questioned the cost to taxpayers, a bill that could hit $100,000.
I've always felt that they should pay their way.
They actually could afford it themselves.
But McCauley believes a royal visit is worth it, especially considering Winnipeg was mentioned in dozens of papers around the world for all the right reasons.
The international publicity they get from Prince Charles feeding a polar bear, visiting the center, even though it wasn't officially open, we saw a lot of how it's going to look like, and a lot of the exhibits are up. I mean, that's you can't hardly put a price on this. I mean, it's fantastic.
A visit that surpassed even his own expectations.
We had larger crowds than I think we expected, but we're delighted by.
so much has changed since my last visit to Manitoba in 1996. I fear well before most of the audience here were even born.
They were fantastic. And one of the things I think that people who met Prince Charles realized that maybe they didn't know before, he's a wonderfully warm and engaging person, and he has a terrific sense of humor, very sharp wit.
You could only imagine the work that would go into a visit from William and Kate.
Tonight, a royal goodbye. After a whirlwind tour of Winnipeg, Prince Charles and Camilla head home.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Caroline Bargut. Their schedule was packed today. Prince Charles and Camilla crisscrossed our city to get to multiple events. Their final stop was the legislature, and that's where CBC's Ryan Hicks was for the royal goodbye.
26 hours and 10 events later, the grand finale. About 1,500 people showed up to greet Prince Charles and Camilla and give a final farewell, including Gloria Yellowback and her family from Manitoba Cree Nation in northern Manitoba.
We've been waiting for months for this, and it was so great finally see him in person instead of TV.
Members of the Idle No More Winnipeg movement also showed up, reminding the royals about Aboriginal issues, including missing and murdered women. Inside, the prince, nursing a cold he says he caught on the other side of the Atlantic, inducted 14 people into the Order of Manitoba and addressed the legislature.
Now, I know very well, ladies and gentlemen, of the reputation for extraordinary resilience acquired by the citizens of Manitoba, a province so often tested by adversity.
Their walkabout was shorter than expected and about 25 minutes behind schedule. Dignitaries watched the couple to the final salute, full military honors for the prince. Hazel Geddes from Halifax came with her son and 2 grandchildren.
We're very privileged to be here at this time. We're not going to have too many opportunities like this.
And if there is a next time, he might visit Manitoba as a king instead of as a prince. Ryan Hicks, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Earlier in the day, the prince was at the Assiniboine Zoo to feed Hudson the polar bear.
Sir, is this the first polar bear you've ever fed?
Yeah, I don't do it very often.
Everything went smoothly while he fed the bear. After that, Charles toured the Journey to Churchill exhibit, then was off to St. Boniface, where he and the Premier opened a home that helps people living with mental health issues. Charles started the day with Camilla at Red River College.
Well, a whirlwind trip to Winnipeg has wrapped up for Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. After jetting around town all day, the royal couple reunited to say a final farewell to the province on our Manitoba legislative grounds. And just like last night for their arrival, we sent CTV's Megan Roberts to cover tonight's goodbye. Now, Megan, how did Winnipeggers send off the Prince and Camilla?
Well, much like they welcomed them with cheers, salutes, and lots of smiles, more than 1,000 people gathered to say goodbye to the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall tonight. One last cheer as Winnipeggers bid farewell to the royal couple, dressed up in their finest clothes and fascinators. A special visit for the entire city, but a simple handshake made one woman's birthday wish come true.
He shook my hand, and he's got a really firm grip. It wasn't long, but it was a firm grip. So that's my 90th birthday wish.
Though this isn't Nellie Worth's first time seeing royalty.
Oh no, I've seen them since Queen Mary and George V.
Prince Charles last visited Manitoba 18 years ago. For his wife Camilla, this is the first time. But before the couple can rest after a whirlwind 4-day Canadian tour and 27 hours of back-to-back events in Winnipeg, there's one final task. Wednesday night, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall helped hand out the Order of Manitoba to 14 recipients, including Olympic golden girl Jennifer Jones. And another big name in sports, Israel Adonijah, the first University of Manitoba product to play in the National Football League. Then a final goodbye to more than 1,000 Manitobans, all hoping for a brush with royalty. 11-year-old Victoria Romero waited hours to see the Prince and Duchess.
I was just so honored to see them, and it's like a really good opportunity for them to come to Canada, and especially Winnipeg.
Romano says her first glimpse of royalty was well worth the wait, a sentiment echoed by Ricky Luchamising.
getting a chance to see him in real, it was like, wow. So this is my first time actually seeing the Royals in real, you know.
Ricky and his wife Tracy welcomed the Royals on Tuesday, but came again Wednesday to wish them well.
It just brings our city up a little bit, brings up a little more morale in the city. Just to have events like this, it's just great.
Prince Charles said a last goodbye to Prime Minister Stephen Harper on the tarmac at Canadian Forces Base Winnipeg. Then it's wheels up and a royal rest during the flight back home to Britain. Now, behind all the pomp and ceremony, there was a protest by Idle No More. Around 20 gathered for a peaceful demonstration, holding signs that said "Stop Harper" and referencing the almost 1,200 missing and murdered Aboriginal women. You can see there was drumming and singing as well. It was a peaceful protest. Protesters were working with police just to keep everything above board. About, like I said, 20 people were there, and they were just kind of trying to reference what they think is a dysfunctional relationship between Indigenous peoples and the Harper government.
All right, thanks, Megan. CTV's Megan Roberts live in studio tonight. Well, earlier in the day, the Royals managed to check out several local landmarks. To recap, this morning they visited Stevenson Hangar, Red River College's campus at the airport. And along with them, the Prime Minister, his wife, and 300 Manitoba students. Charles, a former Air Force pilot, got to throw paper airplanes folded by children to demonstrate the best design for flight. The stop highlighted achievements in aerospace and aviation. The Royals also checked out student science projects.
Very nervous. I didn't want to mess up, but it was very cool meeting some of the most important people in the world.
Next, Charles and Camilla toured the Winnie the Pooh exhibit, or gallery rather, at Assiniboine Park Pavilion. The popular children's books were inspired by a real bear named after the city of Winnipeg. A Canadian soldier with the Fort Garry Horse Regiment first found the cub in the wild in 1914 and brought it to the London Zoo, where author A.A. Milne and his son met it. And today, a local author, Marianne Appleby, presented that rare original film of the real Winnie eating an orange. Fort Garry Horse also gave the Royals a special gift, a stuffed bear in a military uniform, complete with rank. And then Prince Charles encountered Hudson, the zoo's popular polar bear. With a little help from his zookeeper, the Prince of Wales used tongs to give Hudson pieces of fish and to keep everyone safe. We're also told Hudson received a special treat, a little bread and peanut butter, which is something he normally doesn't get. Well, while the Prince fed Hudson, his wife visited the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, which seemed right on point for the final day of the Royal Tour.
Well, according to her Duchess's handler, it was more than perfect.
Professional ballet students took the floor, poised to impress during Camilla's visit to the RWB. The Duchess also unveiled a new coin celebrating 75 years since the company began. Two young dancers perfected a new move in her honor, the curtsy.
She is very pretty and she's really royal. And it was really an honor to present flowers to her.
The ballet's outreach programs took center stage as well. Dancers from an inner-city youth group and adults with mobility challenges showed off their moves, and several students got the chance to chat with the Duchess afterwards. Well, it turned out to be a decent day for the royal visit, or at least the second half. An official farewell to Canada tonight for Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. They capped off their Canadian tour with a day in Winnipeg, and we leave you tonight with some highlights. Thanks for staying up late with us. Have a good night.
I need hardly say that my wife is very happy to be here for the first time.
What is it, a pink sheet?
Cape Wet.
Cape?
This is the first polar bear you've ever met.
I don't give you.
How was Hudson?
Winnipeg is going to London to try and buy our picture, so of course she'll roll the price up.
Prince Charles and Camilla's whirlwind tour of Winnipeg.
The Prince of Wales has wrapped up his visit to Manitoba. Prince Charles wrapped up his one-day stay in Winnipeg today with this inspection outside the legislature on Broadway. Also giving hundreds of admirers their best chance to get a look at the heir to the throne and his wife, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. Earlier this evening, the Prince spoke to the legislature and helped welcome some notable citizens into the Order of Manitoba, including curling champ Jennifer Jones and CJB sports broadcaster Bob Irving. Now, the Royals arrived last night, but didn't begin their public tour until today, and they covered a lot of ground, with Charles feeding a polar bear, Camilla visiting the ballet, and the couple joined at one point by Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Global's Tamara Frolansky tried to keep up.
We tried getting in, they won't let us in.
It's a rare royal moment with a prince that Carla Constant will never forget.
It was really good. Oh, the prince was right there, and then he's gone. Oh my God. It's very fantastic.
Royal watchers in Winnipeg have been waiting for this day.
I wanted to get a good picture for my mom. She loves the Royals.
And did you get it?
Yes.
From scrapbook snapshots to a snack for a hungry Hudson, Prince Charles does his best to charm this city.
We held back some of his breakfast this morning. The prince was here. He had a little bit of bread and some peanut butter.
Combined, the future king and his wife Camilla took in more than a dozen different events Wednesday.
So much has changed since my last visit to Manitoba in 1996. I fear well before most of the audience here were even born.
Around 200 kids had the chance to rub shoulders with royalty at Red River College's Stevenson Hangar.
This is like a jaw-dropping moment for, I think, all of us.
My heart's still pumping just knowing that they're still here. It's crazy. It's a crazy experience.
It was also a chance to see who has the better arm. The prince or the prime minister when it comes to throwing paper airplanes. This is Camilla's first time to Manitoba, and the Royal Winnipeg Ballet rolled out the red carpet.
I've heard so much about the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and it's lived up to my expectations.
And it seems the Duchess of Cornwall lived up to the dancers' expectations too.
That was pretty amazing to meet royalty. That doesn't happen every day.
So how's this for a royal selfie? This man, identified on Twitter as Sab Baddy, seems to have timed his smartphone self-portrait just perfectly as Prince Charles was walking downtown in Winnipeg today. It looks like His Royal Highness is about to say something there too. Now, royal visits like this one are complicated to pull off. It's amazing they go as smoothly as they do, but they're rarely trouble-free. Almost Holly Alexandric now with some royal pains.
Among the picture-perfect moments, emerging are a few royally awkward ones.
He loses points on being a gentleman.
Some couldn't help but notice Charles failing to help Camilla off the plane Tuesday. Royally rude, according to Winnipeggers.
He's not very chivalristic on his way down the stairs. I mean, he should be holding her hand.
I thought it was very rude, though. You know, no manners, help your wife.
Yeah, actually, he left her alone and he stood forward. He should give her a hand or something.
But the prince was following royal protocol.
That's the reason why he came down first, because he's the king in waiting.
A rule that has become flexible over time.
It is observed and it's carried on in England, but I would have thought that Canadian young people are fairly informal.
From planes to cars, Winnipeggers were stuck in traffic at Portage in Maine and elsewhere. Intersections were blocked off for the prince's motorcade several times Wednesday.
I could care less. No, care less. I just want to get to work.
I think it's very exciting. I just had no idea that it was happening through here right now.
The tour troubles are mere bumps in the road in comparison to 2002, when Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip became stranded on the Red River in Winnipeg when a water taxi's engine failed. This visit's first trip up,
please be seated,
an East Coast Victoria Day celebration, when this actor dressed in drag impersonating the Queen. A royally embarrassing moment. Holly Alexandric, Global News.
It was an encounter that many won't be forgetting anytime soon. Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall spent just over 24 hours in Winnipeg. They left last night on a direct flight back home, but City's Natalie Geddes tells us the pair left behind quite the impression.
4 days in Canada, and it all wrapped here with several hundred people hoping for some royal FaceTime.
There was just me and my mother shaking his hand, and it like time just stopped at that time. Like I was just shaking his hand.
Yes, you know, I have to look back at the pictures because in that moment afterwards, I'm like, I don't even remember what she was wearing. I don't even remember what he said.
The day touched many, be it through technology at Stevenson Hangar, to some one-on-one time at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, from the history of an iconic Pooh Bear to the feeding of a real one.
So is this the first polar bear you've ever fed?
I don't do it very often.
With months of planning every little detail, there's little left to spontaneity, which is why that the royal press tells me they were very surprised when they saw the prince do something they'd never seen before.
The motorcade started to take off and two women yelled out, I think they were blowing kisses at the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall, and all of a sudden the motorcade backed up a little bit, stopped. The Prince of Wales unrolled the window a little bit and said, thank you. And I've never seen that happen.
The day had a theme of youth and the next chapter, which included Canada's official gift to the royals, a mini flying jacket for the couple's new grandson. Yes, even to the royal fans, the visit signals an important mark on life and time.
It's just something that's passed on. Like I did it when I was little with my mother, and now I'm just passing it on through generation to generation, and the royals will live on in our family.
Merci. Thank you. And I hope à bientôt.
For Breakfast Television, I'm Natalie Geddes.
The royal couple have wrapped up their whirlwind tour of Manitoba. The day started at Red River College's Stevenson Hangar, where Prince Charles and his wife Camilla joined Prime Minister Stephen Harper and his wife Lorraine for Aerospace and Aviation in Manitoba Day. They took turns throwing paper airplanes folded by children and were presented with a small aviator's jacket for their grandson, Prince George. Charles was an Air Force pilot early on and paid tribute to those who can fix airplanes.
I had a very determined admiration and respect for those marvelous engineers who could actually take these things apart and put them back together again, usually after a pilot had broken them or done something awful to them.
Up here. Just down below a little bit.
The prince also took a temporary job as a zoo employee as he fed Hudson, the polar bear, some fish. He remarked on the size of Hudson's paws, and the zookeeper explained how polar bears in the wild can pull prey out of the water with just one swipe. Meanwhile, the Duchess of Cornwall and Lorraine Harper visited the Royal Winnipeg Ballet and took in a class for those with physical and developmental disabilities. They also watched a performance and unveiled a coin designed by the Royal Canadian Mint in honor of the ballet's 75th anniversary.
I've heard so much about the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and it's lived up to my expectations, and I must congratulate everybody involved.
Camilla also toured the ballet's wardrobe and costume department, where the wardrobe director explained how the costumes are put together and showed her a pattern for a tutu. Their Royal Highnesses departed Winnipeg last night after taking part in the Order of Manitoba ceremony at the Manitoba Legislature.
And they're off. The Royals wrapping up their Canadian tour, but not before a busy day in Winnipeg. Our Natalie Geddes has the details.
Well, first, I want to tell you quickly about something the royal press told me they had never seen before. And it happened as the royal motorcade moved past a group of women blowing kisses here in Winnipeg. Well, here's the weird thing. It stopped and it moved back. The window came down and Charles popped his head out and told them thank you.
Charles in particular is always very engaged and very engaging with the crowds and with whomever he meets.
You know, it was a royal tour made up of moments like that. Now it all wrapped up in Winnipeg yesterday, several hundred people out. They were people like mothers who remember actually seeing the royals when they were a child, now out with their own children, and excited to hope that maybe these children will go and do the same when the royal visit comes back to Canada.
Tomorrow marks Prince Charles.
I'm so delighted to have this chance of being back here in Manitoba.
The royal trip to Winnipeg. Tonight, Winnipeg shows off for the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall.
The meeting of a lifetime. I'm Beth McDonnell. The special connection these young ladies made with the royals.
Also tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Gord LeClaire is away. It's been a whirlwind trip for Winnipeg, fit for royalty. Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, are wrapping up their Canadian tour tonight. And while they've been in our city, they've seen and done more than most of us ever would in just 24 hours. Here are some of the highlights. Meeting and feeding Hudson, Winnipeg's chief polar bear. A special tour of the Winnie the Pooh Gallery at Assiniboine Park. Hanging out with hundreds of energetic children. And an intimate performance at Canada's Royal Winnipeg Ballet. We begin tonight with CTV's John Hendricks, who was there as Prince Charles toured the Journey to Churchill exhibit. John, I take it the prince escaped with all his fingers intact after feeding Hudson.
Yes, he did. He not only survived the encounter, the prince didn't even flinch when Hudson put his big paws right up against the fence, right next to the prince.
That was me. Hudson is used to being the star attraction at the Assiniboine Park Zoo, but today he was sharing the spotlight. Prince Charles visited the zoo, and he wasn't there to simply see the polar bear, he fed him.
We fed him capelin, and as a special treat, because the prince was here, he had a little bit of bread and some peanut butter.
More than just a snack, the prince was participating in a positive reinforcement training session. The idea is to convince Hudson to want to give zookeepers a paw or hindquarters when they need a blood sample.
Another one, same thing.
But the behavior's up to Hudson. They don't make him do it. In fact, they couldn't even make Hudson stay clean for the prince.
He got a little dirty on us. He was much cleaner this morning when he came out of the pool and he decided to roll around.
But soon enough, it was the prince who was rolling.
So this would be
the next in line to the throne toured the under construction Journey to Churchill exhibit and thrilled many in the crowd who'd come to see him.
We actually thought he was much more dashing in person.
Karen Geis-McNeil says the prince was charming.
He actually said that we were going to ruin our devices as he was going by. So he does have a good sense of humor.
Quite blessed out here as well, because we'd never even dream of getting this close to him.
It was close and it was quick. All too soon, the prince was on his way to his next destination, leaving behind a happy crowd and a happy bear.
Now, we are waiting here at the Manitoba Legislative Building for the arrival of the Prince and the Duchess of Cornwall. They will be coming here this evening for the Order of Manitoba ceremony. They will be helping 14 Manitobans to receive the honor. And I'm pretty confident that they will be here on time. The entire visit has been unfolding like a well-oiled machine. Of course, it hasn't been entirely without controversy. The big news here today has been comments that the Prince allegedly made a couple of days ago to a woman in Halifax. A UK newspaper is reporting the prince compared Vladimir Putin to Adolf Hitler.
John, did the prince comment on that report today?
No, he did not address the controversy at all. However, the Prime Minister's office did. They called it a private comment.
All right, thanks, John. CTV's John Hendricks reporting from the legislature tonight. Another bear, this one with a famous connection to London, captured the attention of the royals earlier in the day. It's Winnie the Pooh, of course. Prince Charles and Camilla toured the Winnie the Pooh Gallery at the Assiniboine Park Pavilion. They toured the collection of memorabilia, including the first painting of Pooh by E.H. Shepard and other drawings from the popular stories. The royals were also treated to rare footage of the real Winnie Bear. And before they left, they even received a special gift from Fort Garry Horse.
We are very honored to share a part of our regiment with you.
The stuffed bear sported a military uniform, complete with rank. It resembles the cub rescued by Lieutenant Harry Colburn, who later became the inspiration for the popular children's books. One of the first stops today, though, was at Stevenson Hangar, Red River College's campus on the airport grounds. It was a chance for the royal couple to see what an important role the aerospace industry has in Manitoba. Prince Charles made a few brief remarks about what has and hasn't changed since his last visit here in 1996.
What has most assuredly not changed is the vitality of this province and the optimism for Canada's future, as reflected in the faces of these young and, dare I say, rather energetic Canadians.
The royal couple was presented with a special gift for grandson George, a little aviator jacket. We'll have more on the royal visit coming up in the newscast. But first, to a developing story. 100 Manitoba students got the chance to see the royals up close this morning. Some even had a personal conversation with the couple. Prime Minister Stephen Harper and his wife joined the royals on the stop, which focused on achievements in aerospace and aviation. And as CTV's Beth McDonnell reports, the landing proved to be a fun and meaningful stop for the next generation.
Paper planes took flight at Red River College's Stevenson hangar on the royal tour. One of the planes poked a cameraman, but no harm. The royals appeared to have a lot of fun at this stop with 300 Manitoba students.
It was fantastic. I loved it. I was shaking.
This 11-year-old boy quick to snap an unexpected selfie and his own photo of the royal couple before explaining to them how to design a plane that will actually fly.
The shape of the plane matters. If it's long, it'll soar through the air easily. If it's fatter, then it won't.
But did he seem interested in what you were doing?
Yeah, he was.
Taking interest perhaps because of their own personal experiences. Prince Charles, a former pilot, and the Duchess, the president of a British osteoporosis charity.
She was asking a lot of questions. She said, how did you come up with your idea? And then she asked like what her experiment actually was and what the raw royal jelly is.
The girls say when handlers tried to hurry the Duchess along, she asked for more time with them. And when she reached out and held these girls' hands, goosebumps.
I was just like, oh my gosh, she was just holding it. I was like, you couldn't let go. No.
Students say the royals listened attentively at each station.
From plane design to space travel to science experiments, this stop was all about showing off Manitoba's young minds and future potential.
These 3 minds were given special time with the couple. They sent the first Canadian science experiment by elementary students to the International Space Station.
Very nervous. I didn't want to mess up, but it was very cool meeting some of the most important people in the world.
Later presenting the royals with flowers.
Their experiment performed in space recently is, I think, a remarkable achievement.
During his speech, Prince Charles said he hopes their success continues and complimented Manitoba's dynamic young people. Beth McDonnell, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The royal stop coincided with an annual event here in Manitoba called AIM Day, which is Aerospace and Aviation in Manitoba Day. Results of last night's web poll question, we asked, are you excited the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall are visiting Winnipeg? 20% said yes, 80% said no. More than 1,700 people voted. A lot of people interested at the legislature tonight. They've lined up there awaiting the arrival of the royal couple, who is set to arrive any moment. They are going to take part in an Order of Manitoba ceremony. We'll have more on that, as well as your forecast next. A royal treat, the Duchess of Cornwall, the guest of honor today at Canada's Royal Winnipeg Ballet.
A royal visit to our city wouldn't be complete without a stop at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. The Duchess of Cornwall took in several performances and helped honor the company's 75th anniversary. CTV's Alicia Fieldberg reports.
The Duchess of Cornwall's visit to the Royal Winnipeg Ballet seemed right on point for the final day of the royal tour.
Well, according to her Duchess's handler, it was more than perfect.
Professional ballet students took the floor, poised to impress.
There's a lot of pressure. Never really danced for royalty before.
They didn't miss a beat, landing the company a royal invitation to perform in Britain.
She told us we did a good job and that we're invited to go to Covent Garden whenever we want.
The ballet's outreach programs took center stage as well. Dancers from an inner-city youth group shook it up. And adults with mobility challenges showed off their moves.
So often we just see what they cannot do as opposed to seeing everything they're able to do.
How did you come to this? What's
Camilla made one-on-one time for many staff and students.
She was very open with her time. She made sure she connected with as many people as she could. Very humble.
And unveiled a new coin celebrating 75 years since the company began.
Happy, whatever you call it, birthday, 75 years, and I hope it goes on for another 75.
2 young dancers perfected a new move in her honor, the curtsy.
She is very pretty and she's really royal. And it was really an honor to present flowers to her.
The Royal Winnipeg Ballet was the first organization the reigning Queen Elizabeth ever designated royal. That was in 1953, and this remains the only North American ballet with that designation. Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Winnipeg.
More royal watching coming up. You're looking at a live shot right now from the Manitoba legislature where Prince Charles and Camilla are expected to arrive at any moment. It's the final leg of their royal trip to Canada. We will have more on that next. All right, let's go back to the Manitoba legislature now, where a crowd is anxiously awaiting the royal couple's arrival. Hundreds of people, as you can see, have gathered over the last hour or so. That crowd has been building throughout the hour we've been on air. Prince Charles and his wife Camilla are participating in the Order of Manitoba ceremony tonight. 14 lucky Manitobans will receive this honor and the once-in-a-lifetime chance to meet the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall. The Prince is also expected to make a speech tonight. After the ceremony, though, an official farewell to Canada and Manitoba with full military honors, a 21-gun salute, and inspection of the Honor Guard. We will leave you tonight with some highlights from the royal trip to Winnipeg.
Very cool. Big crowd there.
12 stops on this Winnipeg leg of the Canadian tour. Very busy.
Yeah,
very busy time in the city.
They know how to make their way around.
At least they're seeing that Manitoba sunshine for their last hour.
Yes,
so.
this is true. They will depart tonight just before 9 o'clock from CFB Shiloh. Again, here are some of the highlights from their whirlwind trip.
What is it, a cruise ship?
Cape Line.
Cape Line.
So is this the first polar bear you've ever had?
I don't do it very often.
How was Hudson?
Winnipeg was coming to London to try and buy this picture, so of course it drove the price up. So how many
Tonight, the Prince and the polar bear.
So is this the first polar bear you've ever had?
I don't do it very often.
Dancing for a duchess.
Once in a lifetime thing. It's a great experience.
And
good evening, and yes indeed, Winnipeg played host to Prince Charles and his wife Camilla today. A quick stop on the royal couple's tour of Canada, but it was packed with many events today. CBC's Chris Glover followed Prince Charles, and he kicks off our royal coverage.
About a dozen people are here at the Manitoba legislature in downtown Winnipeg, hoping to catch a glimpse of Prince Charles. Right now, the royals are taking a bit of a break. In about an hour, he will meet with Prime Minister Stephen Harper privately. Then they'll come down here into the Manitoba legislature to watch as 14 Manitobans are inducted into the Manitoba Hall, or into the Order of Manitoba. Then he'll come outside and for about 20 minutes do a walkabout. For most people, that is going to be the best chance to see Prince Charles and Camilla, but already today we had some lucky Manitobans with a one-on-one.
After learning how to build the perfect paper airplane from aviation experts at Stevenson Hangar, there wasn't enough time for flying lessons.
I was like, oh, they're going to be so sophisticated. And then I see him holding a paper airplane, and it's like, oh, that's so cool.
Canada's Prime Minister and his wife joined in.
I think the day we all threw paper airplanes with their Royal Highnesses is one we'll not soon forget.
The royal couple was given an aviation jacket for their new grandson. Prince Charles says a lot has changed in Manitoba since his last trip in 1996.
What has most assuredly not changed is the vitality of this province and the optimism for Canada's future.
Charles went on to nod to the 3 Winnipeg elementary students whose cancer project landed on the International Space Station.
Amazing, like a jaw-dropping moment.
Later flying solo, Charles arrived at the Assiniboine Park Zoo. Not everyone along the route got as close as they wanted. Was that enough? What you just...
No, not at all. I would have loved him coming a little bit closer. He's so excited. I'm just shaking.
Inside, Prince Charles wasn't shaking as he fed Hudson the polar bear.
Sir, is this the first polar bear you've ever fed? Yeah, I don't do it very often.
In high demand all day, the Canadian tour perhaps too much for the prince. He felt ill and needed hot tea, with milk of course. Former Winnipeg Blue Bomber turned businessman Abi Khan pitched in.
And I cut the line and said, I need some milk for the prince now.
Well enough to finish his agenda. He later opened a home that helps people with mental health issues.
It's a wonderful example of so many people working together.
But for some, it's the prince who's the example.
I think because they are such a big thing in the world that kids could look up to them.
And after all these waves goodbye, these kids say they'll keep looking. Chris Glover, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Duchess of Cornwall also attended some events this afternoon without Prince Charles. CBC's Alana Cole was there, and she joins us now live.
Well, this is the first time the Duchess of Cornwall has visited Manitoba, and every time there's a royal visit in town, there's that extra excitement in the air. A warm welcome on a chilly day.
It's Camilla's first visit. I have seen Prince Charles before when he's been here, but it's quite an honor to have Camilla here and to get a chance to see her. It's just great to have them here.
Today, after a busy morning with Prince Charles, the Duchess of Cornwall, alongside Laureen Harper, made a stop at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, a chance to celebrate its 75th anniversary season. Wow. Looking at the costumes that help bring the performances to life, and dancers gave the Duchess their best royal performances, like this pas de deux, highlighting what the ballet school has become known for internationally. An explorability class offered to dancers with varied movement abilities. And then there was sure a lot of smiles as these youngsters showed off what they've learned as part of the RWB's outreach program.
She said that I should keep dancing.
And how did that make you feel?
That made me feel excited. It was really fun. And I was a bit nervous.
All making up a visit Camilla called thrilling.
I've heard so much about the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and it's lived up to my expectations.
But the excitement didn't stop here. Royal watchers waited for their chance to see the Duchess at the Assiniboine Credit Union, where the Duchess learned about innovative programs to help low-income families and community organizations.
I love the royal family.
And she sure didn't disappoint.
My brother.
This visit may be short.
Good job. I never thought I'd ever meet her. Ever.
It's clear these royal memories are going to last a lifetime. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We have lots more still to come on the royal visit for you today. At 5:30, the CBC's Cameron McIntosh will report on Prince Charles and his controversial comments likening Vladimir Putin to Hitler. We will also look at the relationship between the royal family and Canada's Aboriginal people. And then at 6, we'll have a live interview with a well-known member of Winnipeg's Aboriginal community about the future of that relationship. You are looking live right now at the grounds of the Manitoba Legislative Building, the last stop for Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall on their royal visit to Manitoba. You can see people are gathering right now to get a glimpse of Charles and Camilla and also hear from the Prince as he gives a speech tonight. The many events Charles and Camilla have attended today in Winnipeg are being overshadowed internationally by a comment made by the Prince earlier in the trip, a remark comparing Russian President Vladimir Putin to Adolf Hitler. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh has the story.
So is this the first polar bear you've ever had?
I don't do it very often.
A prince and a polar bear. A great shot, but it's the prince's comments comparing the Russian president to Hitler that has people talking.
It would be considered political, but if that's the way he feels, then that's fine.
Putin is a rather bad character. I don't know if I'd say as bad as Hitler, but who knows what's to come.
The prince reportedly made the comments in Halifax after a museum volunteer explained to the prince how her family fled Poland as the Nazis invaded in 1939. She told a British reporter, he said, and now Putin is doing just about the same as Hitler, in reference to Russia's occupation of eastern Ukraine. That blew up in the London media. Accusations the prince, known to have strong views, was meddling in politics, inappropriate for an unelected royal.
You can't be much more insulting about a Russian than comparing them to Hitler.
I think he has got a point about President Putin's actions.
Appearing in Winnipeg with the prince, Stephen Harper didn't refer to the comments, but has said this in the past.
We haven't seen this kind of behavior since the Second World War.
Others have gone even further, including Hillary Clinton, in response to Russian claims it's protecting minorities in Ukraine.
That is reminiscent of claims that were made back in the 1930s when Germany, under the Nazis, kept talking about how they had to protect German minorities.
Clarence House, the prince's official office, says it doesn't comment on the prince's private conversations, but also says the prince wouldn't try to make a political statement through a private conversation. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, it's no secret Canada's relationship with Aboriginal people is strained. But what about the relationship with the Royals? It was the Crown, after all, which signed the treaties with First Nations people. CBC's Gillian Taylor finds out what the Aboriginal community wants from this royal visit.
Their moccasins fit for a king, or in this case, a prince, Prince Charles and his wife Camilla. Edna Nabis says in Cree culture, you welcome visitors with a gift, and she's giving her very best.
This is moose hide that my brothers got, and the beaver is also for my brothers.
The royal couple met with several prominent Aboriginal leaders Tuesday night, including Grand Chief Derek Neepanak.
I would have to look at him as an ally, recognizing that we came together in a treaty-based relationship with the Crown, and that's who represents it here.
Neepanak says he talked to Prince Charles about the treaties, and the prince asked about flaws with the First Nations Education Act.
He has a great deal of sway and control and influence with the federal government through the Governor General.
Nigan Sinclair is a little skeptical. He says the prince has met with chiefs before, and little has changed. In 2012, they discussed why Canada has not honored its treaty obligations. The chief said Charles agreed to pass on the message to the Queen. Sinclair says if he met with Charles, he'd say, live up to your promises.
I would remind him of those things and how important those things are to First Nations currently within the country. Idle No More as being one example.
As for Nabis, she's just pleased to share a piece of her culture.
Yes.
But how did she know what size to make?
The internet, I just went there and put their name in and asked what their shoe size were, and they gave it to me. He's a 9 and she's a 11.
She says the moccasins are on their way to the royal couple, which could become a family tradition, since she already made a pair for Prince George when he was born. Gillian Taylor, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, we're going to speak live with a well-known member of the Aboriginal community about the Royals and Canada's Aboriginal people and the way forward. A reminder, all right, let's head back to the Manitoba Legislative Grounds where people are getting ready to see Charles and Camilla this evening. The CBC's Chris Glover is standing by with some guests.
Hey, Janet, that's right. A lot more people are now here on the grounds of the Manitoba Legislature. You can see over my shoulder here a lot of folks with a lot of different stories as to why they've come down here to the legislature.
I'm just proud to be a Canadian. Our nation, we share this New Zealand, Australia, and it's just such a special bond that I really feel is special to our country.
If the Prince and Camilla come over to you and talk to you, what are you going to say to them?
I have not thought about that. I probably should get going.
Okay, you have a couple hours to think about it. How about you, Kristen?
I didn't even think about that either.
All
Probably
right.
that I'd be just happy to meet them.
All right, well, we'll leave you guys to think about those answers. You'll have to come up with something. The royal couple, of course, will be coming out here just after 8 o'clock. They have some official business to do inside. Janet, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Christian. You can always... Good evening. You are looking live at a shot of the Manitoba Legislative Grounds. The Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall are not expected to arrive here for their final events of this royal tour for another hour. But as you can see, there's already a crowd gathering, people hoping to get a glimpse of the royals. And what a lovely evening it's turning out to be. Charles and Camilla are not out enjoying the sunshine right now. They're indoors resting at the Fairmont Hotel after a busy day of visiting the zoo, schools, dance studios, even a credit union. Our Chris Glover spent the day shadowing the Prince of Wales, and he joins us now live.
Well, the next order of business for Prince Charles is a private meeting with Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Then he will come down here to the legislature around 7 o'clock. There will be some ceremonies inside, and then after that, he'll come out here, walk down this pathway, and these folks here will get their best chance to see Prince Charles and Camilla. But already today, some Manitobans had a special one-on-one.
After learning how to build the perfect paper airplane from aviation experts at Stevenson Hangar, there wasn't enough time for flying lessons.
I was like, oh, they're going to be so sophisticated. And then I see them holding a paper airplane, and I'm just like, oh, that's so cool.
Canada's Prime Minister and his wife joined in.
I think the day we all threw paper airplanes with their Royal Highnesses is one we'll not soon forget.
The royal couple was given an aviation jacket for their new grandson. Prince Charles says a lot has changed in Manitoba since his last trip in 1996.
What has most assuredly not changed is the vitality of this province and the optimism for Canada's future.
Charles went on to nod to the 3 Winnipeg elementary students whose cancer project landed on the International Space Station.
Amazing, like a jaw-dropping moment.
Later flying solo, Charles arrived at the Assiniboine Park Zoo. Not everyone along the route got as close as they wanted. Was that enough? What you just...
No, not at all. I would have left him coming a little bit closer. I'm so excited. I'm just shaking.
Inside, Prince Charles wasn't shaking as he fed Hudson the polar bear.
Sir, is this the first polar bear you've ever fed?
I don't do it very often.
In high demand all day, the Canadian tour perhaps too much for the prince. He felt ill and needed hot tea, with milk of course. Former Winnipeg Blue Bomber turned businessman Abi Khan pitched in.
And I cut the line and said, I need some milk for the prince now.
Well enough to finish his agenda. He later opened a home that helps people with mental health issues.
It's a wonderful example of so many people working together.
But for some, it's the prince who's the example.
I think because they are such a big thing in the world that kids could look up to them.
And after all these waves goodbye, these kids say they'll keep looking. Chris Glover, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Duchess of Cornwall had a busy day as well. She attended many events this afternoon without Prince Charles. CBC's Alana Cole was there, and she joins us now live.
Well, this is the first time the Duchess of Cornwall has visited Manitoba, and whenever there's a royal visit in town, there's that extra excitement in the air. A warm welcome on a chilly day.
It's Camilla's first visit. I have seen Prince Charles before when he's been here, but it's quite an honor to have Camilla here and to get a chance to see her. It's just great to have them here.
Now it's warm in here. Today, after a busy morning with Prince Charles, the Duchess of Cornwall, alongside Laureen Harper, made a stop at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, a chance to celebrate its 75th anniversary season. Wow. Looking at the costumes that help bring the performances to life, and dancers gave the Duchess their best royal performances, like this pas de deux, highlighting what the ballet school has become known for internationally. An explorability class offered to dancers with varied movement abilities. And then there was sure a lot of smiles as these youngsters showed off what they've learned as part of the RWB's outreach program.
She said that I should keep dancing.
And then how did that make you feel?
That made me feel excited. It was really fun I know, I was a bit nervous.
All making up a visit Camilla called thrilling.
I've heard so much about the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and it's lived up to my expectations.
But the excitement didn't stop here. Royal watchers waited for their chance to see the Duchess at the Assiniboine Credit Union, where the Duchess learned about innovative programs to help low-income families and community organizations.
I love the royal family.
And she sure didn't disappoint. This visit may be short.
Good job. I never thought I'd ever meet her. Ever.
It's clear these royal memories are going to last a lifetime. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The relationship between the Crown and Canada's Aboriginal people is hundreds of years old. Queen Elizabeth and members of the British monarchy regularly meet Aboriginal leaders and communities across Canada on their visits. The Queen and Prince Charles have even been given ceremonial names. Charles has at least 3. Aboriginal communities also use these visits as a chance to focus attention on specific grievances. One of those opportunities is taking place right now at the Legislative Assembly. CBC's Mitch Peacock joins us now live.
Janet, less than an hour now until the Royals arrive here on the legislative grounds, and there is a small demonstration taking shape here. It's expected to grow over the next 45 minutes to an hour when the Royals make their arrival here. Niigaan Sinclair is an assistant professor at the University of Manitoba. He is also a well-known author and an expert on subjects relating to Native issues. And I want to ask you about tonight's demonstration and what your understanding of it is.
Tonight's demonstration is a reminder to the representative of the Crown of the importance of treaties and the ongoing treaty relationships in this area and also throughout Canada, and the ongoing struggles that are going on within the country involving energy and environment.
In general, how would you characterize relations between the Crown and Canada's Aboriginal peoples?
Well, the relationship between the Crown and First Nations are long-standing. Even today, if you go up to First Nations Reserve, you'll see pictures of the Queen in the house. First Nations recognize the importance of that relationship, but how the current state of the relationship within the country, and especially the concerns of the federal government involving energy and environmental policy, is very disconcerting. And so this is an opportunity for us to remind the Crown of their obligation as a partner within this relationship, and they're a partner with the Government of Canada.
We know that recently Prince Philip was here as recently as a couple of years ago and was given a very special honor by Aboriginal peoples here in the province of Manitoba. What goes along with that presentation that he received a little while back?
Well, the Prince Charles, when he was here in 2012, received an eagle feather from the chiefs of Manitoba, many of the chiefs of Manitoba, and that obligation is an important reminder for him. It was a treaty gathering, and he promised at that time to continue to work on the treaty relationship, and part of that is not just talking about Indigenous people as environmental stewards, as he has in many speeches, but to actually live up to the obligation of that relationship. And so when the Government of Canada wants to build pipelines, pass laws that involve First Nations territory without their consent, and pass education bills, it's very disconcerting, and the Crown has an obligation to step in on that, because the Crown is who we deal with. It's not the Government of Canada, it's the Crown, through the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor General. Those are the representatives here, and so when a Crown representative comes, it's an important moment in the relationship between First Nations and Canada.
Some valuable insights tonight. We appreciate your time.
Miigwech, thank you very much.
Niigaan Sinclair joining us. Janet? Between the Canadians and the Rangers. Game 3 goes tomorrow night in New York. We've got the action for you on CBC, beginning with pre-game coverage getting underway at 6:30. Now closer to home, just outside the legislature to be specific, as we await the arrival of royalty. Some good news arriving for the Jets and their fans. Turns out that Jacob Trouba, who left the World Championship with a bit of an injury concern, has been diagnosed with a mild neck sprain, or at least neck strain, and that's a positive. The results could have been much worse. It turns out his summer training won't be affected at all, and he will be ready to go. The Blizzard plays Saturday at 1 and 7 at Notre Dame Arena. The record is 1 and 2 on the season so far. The Gold Eyes fell to 4 and 3 on the season with an 18-5 loss in Laredo, Texas early today. Their next game comes up on Friday night in Lincoln. Janet?
Thanks, Mitch. Marilyn's back.
Today, CBC News coverage of the royal visit continues in Winnipeg as Charles and Camilla meet youth and local entrepreneurs, and Hudson the polar bear at Assiniboine Park. CBC News is there for you with coverage of the royal couple in Canada.
At A&W.
Bye.